Here we go. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. And we've just gotten thrown off of YouTube. We don't have the rights for this. Okay. Just going to let that linger for a second. What you're listening to is the Stealing Home soundtrack. This is David Foster on the keyboards there. Stealing Home 1988. This is one of our favorite movies. And hi, by the way, it's me, Johnny B. And over here to my right is the powerful and attractive Gerry Touchette, as always. We're here in Bristol, Rhode Island, and we're about to talk about Stealing Home, which is so many things about this movie that I can't even start to tell you, but I'm going to start to tell you. And I'm going to fade this out just a little bit because I think I can get away with maybe 40 seconds before we're copyright infringing. And so we're here in Bristol, Rhode Island, where it's the JonnyLand live POPcast, and this is a very special episode because of the movie it is. We always do a movie that we love, and this is definitely no exception. We found this movie in college in like 1990, 91, maybe 91, somebody, because we were fans of Jodie Foster and Mark Harmon, of course, but Jodie was riding high with Silence of the Lambs. And somebody came into my room and said, you know, if you're a Jodie Foster fan, you should check out this movie called Stealing Home. And I knew nothing about it. And on its face, it really didn't appeal to me, I'll be honest, because it's a baseball movie, it was drama, and what did I know? But I said, all right, you know, I'll take a look at it. And so they loaned us the videotape, because back then nobody even had DVDs or cell phones or any internet. And I watched the movie, Gerry and I watched the movie, and it was just one of these things where all of a sudden, it hits me that this movie is just so perfect. Mark Harmon, Jodie Foster, written and directed by the late, great Will Aldis and STEVEN Kampmmann. STEVEN Kampmmann became someone that I was just so compelled to try and reach out to back then. And again, with no internet, no cell phones or anything, I went through, I think, the Screen Actors Guild to try and find a contact number or an address or something. And I wrote a message or a letter or something, it's a little foggy, just telling him that a friend of mine and I at Roger Williams, we saw the movie and instantly fell in love with it. And I just wanted to let him know that it was the best thing ever. And again, 91-ish. And some weeks later, my phone rang in my college room, and it was STEVEN Kampmmann on the phone. It was one evening, and it just blew my mind. And he called me saying that he had gotten my message. He was really glad to hear from me, and he went on to talk to me for about 20 minutes about the film, where it was shot around New Jersey, some special areas. And he told me a few stories. And the greatest thing now is that today is May 31st, 2024. It is STEVEN Kampmann's 77th birthday. And I can say now it only took 6 years, but he and I have become friends. We finally got a chance to chat in person over Zoom last September. And then we met where he lives in New Jersey a bunch of months ago and had an amazing time. It was just my head's exploding. And what you see here in front of me, us, is the Billy Wyatt Louisville Slugger baseball bat. And Mark Harmon had, I don't know, a dozen or so of these made during the production, and he gave them as gifts to a bunch of people. And of course, Steven had a couple or one or whatever, but Steven presented me with Billy's bat. And I haven't even hit anybody with it. I barely even touch it. It's in a case when I'm at home. Yeah. So it's one of these holy grail treasure kind of things that I was looking for years and years. And I mentioned it to Steven, and Steven said, if I can find a bat, it's yours. And so we have something really cool
Very cool.
about to happen.
Yeah, very
And
cool.
this isn't live right now. It's going to be edited and whatever, but something amazing is about to happen. Steven Kampmann, even though it's his birthday and he's ready to party like it's 1988, Steven's going to join us over Zoom in just a couple of minutes. So, and he's going to spend a few minutes with us to chat about Stealing Home on his birthday, and that's just fantastic.
Incredibly fantastic.
So we have a couple of questions. We're going to send him a signal right now. We're going to take a break, which will be like this for you guys. But the next thing you see is going to be a Zoom call with me, Gerry, and Steven Kampmann. Check this out. So where would you put Stealing Home on your
In
10
the,
Island movies?
no.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
There he is.
Hi, men.
Steven, how are you?
I couldn't get out of unmuted or the unmuted, but now I'm here.
You're going to wish we were muted in about 2 minutes. So, Steven, I'd like to welcome you to this silly little thing that we call the JonnyLand Live POPcast. And this is my friend up here in the other Brady Bunch box. This is my friend Gerry.
Hey, Gerry.
Hi, Steven. Very honored to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. And I think you're the two of the last people that would be doing a podcast on Stealing Home anywhere in the world. So that makes you very special in my world.
Well, and I know you've seen it before, but you have Appleby and Wyatt rocking the colors. I know you saw this. And before we really get started, I want to, first of all, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time today, because it's not just a regular Friday. I've been hyping this up in the intro that somehow I'm going to edit together, but we'd like to wish you a very, very happy birthday today.
Thank you very much.
Yes, happy birthday.
I sent out onto YouTube, not YouTube, but on Facebook, Instagram, that I was feeling really young today, and I put the picture of myself as a baby up, and so I'm feeling very youthful today. And
you look good. You sound
yeah,
good.
feeling good.
The last time we were Zooming, you were sitting outside, I think, or maybe on a porch. And you look super casual there as well. And but this is great. You have anything special going on today?
Well, my wife and I are going to, we don't go out to dinner a lot. We just rather stay here and do our thing. But we're going out to like a steak place, and going to have a nice meal and just get out of local Hackettstown where we live, and enjoy the evening.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
good.
So what I was sort of starting off this little episode with was just kind of talking with Gerry about how we discovered Stealing Home through a mutual friend when we were in college back in maybe 91, before the age of digital movies and DVDs and anything like that. We had a friend that came down to my 7x14 room where Gerry and I were probably watching The Silence of the Lambs, and I had a couple of posters of Jodie Foster on my wall.
Yeah.
And this friend said, well, if you're a Jodie Foster fan, you should check out this movie called Stealing Home. And I had never heard of it. I didn't know about it when it was in the theater, at least consciously. And I said, well, I really am a Jodie Foster fan, and I like Mark Harmon. Let me take a peek at this thing. And I remember popping it into the VCR, and Gerry was hanging out, and very immediately, almost the between Mark preparing that baseball field,
Yeah,
and the theme, I was really hooked in. And I know Gerry feels something special about that opening scene as well.
Right, very much so. I think that's what hooked me in from the beginning. I've played baseball, stopped in high school, seeing him on that field at the beginning by himself, just getting things set up, just enjoying it so much, that pulled me right into whatever was going to happen. And the rest of the movie just pulled me in as well, all the way through to the end, which I was talking to John about that. I think was a perfect ending as they walk off the baseball field together.
Yeah, it's interesting because we shot that post film. The beginning and ending were new. We
Oh,
didn't
really?
have, yeah, it's not
Oh,
in the script. I'm still looking for the script, John, which I will either email it to you or I'll find it in person and give you a copy. But yeah, we came back and decided that we wanted to bookend it. So that field that you see in the beginning is actually San Bernardino. Everything else was shot back east. And actually, Mark Harmon owned part of that team. And I always loved because the name of the team is Spirit. I always loved that. And agree with you about the ending. It was kind of a nice way to go off. And so we shot the ending at the same, I think the whole thing was 3 days down there. And Mark had to go. So if you look in that opening scene, at one point he's up in the booth singing because he's bored waiting for people to come. And that actually is me because Mark had to go. So we shot it from a distance so you couldn't tell who it was. And then I,
wow.
the third base coach. Those are my appearances in the movie. But the ending and the beginning, I'm glad to hear that because it worked out and it kind of set up the movie for the flashback and then came back for him being up at bat so he could steal home.
Now,
Yeah.
before we lose that moment of being up at bat, you once told me a story about the guy on the loudspeaker.
Yes.
Uh, and can you just
Yeah.
there are a couple of little tidbit like in jokes or in things that
Hang on
probably
one.
nobody knows
Hey,
about.
hang on one second. It's my son. I've got to talk to you later. I'm doing a wonderful podcast. I'll call you back.
Hey,
Okay. Oh, look, I'll call you back when I get done, okay?
we're gonna leave
Okay.
in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
I want to wish you happy birthday.
Hey, all right. They're wishing me happy birthday.
Of
So
course.
thank you very much. Thank you. Did you get the picture I sent you, Tilly?
Yes, I did. That was crazy. How old were you?
3. Yeah. All right, guys. I can't be rude, but thank you for calling me, and I'll talk to you when I have a little more time.
All right, love you.
All right. Thank you. Love you.
That's
All
sweet.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, the movie was produced by um, was Tom Mount was the producer of both our movie and the movie with what's his name, Bull Durham, with Kevin
Awesome.
Costner. And as it worked out, when we were done shooting our movie, our cinematographer left our movie and went down and shot Bull Durham. So the movies had this kind of connection to one another. And earlier, when it went to casting, we reached out to Costner, and he turned us down. And Mark Harmon always let me know about that, how it bothered him. That we went after Costner instead of him. So when we were doing the voiceover stuff in when we were editing and doing all that, I thought it would be amusing to put uh, put Costner's name up, batting for Costner, Billy Wyatt, and Harmon laughed kind of. It was funny because Costner played. I mean, we were the competing movie with that movie, and Costner and Harmon were competitive. So to say batting now for Costner is Billy Wyatt was kind of a good joke. I
Was
don't think I
was
I,
explained that very well, but you
yeah.
get the
yeah,
gist, right?
I
was
always
the
laugh.
sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
Let's say I always laugh at that part, and now knowing what's really behind it, I'll probably just laugh all the harder next time I watch it.
Yeah, it was just it was fun to be able to do that, and that was done in ADR. That was done way after the shooting, months later. So it was just the mood that I was in, and my co partner Will Aldis were in, and we said, let's put Costner in. So when
That's
Mark sold a movie for the first time, he was completely surprised.
that's great. That was going to be my question. If that voiceover was shot at the time live, or if it was something that was done in post.
Yeah, total post
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
And so again, with the opening of the film, for me, I'm sure that I had heard uh, some other David Foster soundtracks before, but again, I want to let Gerry talk about or ask you a question about this thing, which I found. This got delivered to me yesterday, Stephen.
I
Uh,
have one of those.
this was, and it was sealed until about an hour ago because it was in front of my camera, but there was too much glare. But this is a brand new LP
Wow, that's funny.
of the soundtrack, and so that was a very fortunate arrival just yesterday, so we could have it
That's
here
great.
today. But I
Wow.
know that Gerry, as much of a soundtrack guy as I've always been, and a fan of David Foster's as I am. Oh, and by the way, that LP, I did get tickets to see David in December in Westbury, Long Island.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
and I'm hoping that I can wave it in his face maybe, and he'll sign it for me.
That would be very cool. And if you
But
do,
I,
please send my very best to him. If
of
you
course
get
I
a
will.
chance to do it,
Of,
that'd be great.
of course I will. But I know Gerry had a question though about the
Yeah.
music.
Okay.
Well, I guess not so much a question as just John and I were going back and forth, texting back and forth after, I watched it again recently. And I was just coming to the fact that sometimes a soundtrack overpowers a movie or kind of detracts from it. And I
Hmm.
think one of the reasons I love the movie so much. John and I listened to that soundtrack, I don't know how many times in college, loudly.
It's a good
Uh,
soundtrack.
yeah, and it was one of those where I think it just complemented, it just like clicked into the movie so well, and they were both just, I think both made each other stronger after watching it, how the soundtrack
That's
played against.
that's good to hear. But the truth is on this, because I was never great on music, and my partner Will Aldis was really good, and he picked out a lot of the songs, like Everly Brothers and Poison Ivy, and he had a good feel for that. And David, of course, did all the instrumental, and he also did the one, the solo piece. But the rest was kind of, I really think a lot of those choices were Will's, and he knew music, and we both knew that period of time, and those were kind of our favorite songs, and so there they got in, and it really meshed well with David's work. But that's David's skill, because David knew what we were going to put into the other songs, and he put his work to kind of integrate into the other pieces from other performers. So
Was
I'm glad to hear that, and I'll tell you, a lot of people have used that soundtrack for weddings and all sorts of things. That that soundtrack traveled well.
the
I
song and When She Danced
Yeah.
is, I mean, that's a got to be a huge wedding song.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one that got it. But I can't tell you the number of people I've run into and said, "Oh yes, we played Stealing Home at our wedding," and it's always gratifying.
Was David, I don't know if I've asked you this before, was David Foster um, hired onto the show early
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
or
How does that work? You kind of, as you get near the end, you start meeting with potential musicians that are going to do the soundtrack. It's a very, very unique skill to play these movies, to play music, to adapt it to the movie. And we looked at a couple other people, some very well-known types, and nothing was happening. And someone mentioned David, that he had read the script and he liked it and wanted to meet with us. Well, you already love that attitude when you hear that, that he'd seen the rough cut of the movie and wanted to be part of it. Well, that's a good opening. And we met with him. I think we watched the movie with him,
Oh, wow.
and then came out, and his energy and the kind of the way you see him when he's performing, except he was 30 years younger, was like, I really want to do this. And I think pretty easily we didn't waste time. We kind of just took a chance and said, he had never done a movie. I don't think he did some St. Elmo's Fire, actually, but this was not the world he was in generally. He wasn't doing movies and soundtracks. And so I think we said yes pretty quickly, and off he went. And I can tell you, the first moment I heard the main theme of the song out at his house in Malibu was just electric, because you could tell right away that, the music fit the movie.
That's great. Um, one of the things that I loved about the conversation you and I had back in '91, and I had retold Gerry the story of when we first watched it in my college room. I was immediately kind of smitten with the film, and probably the first time I ever really felt compelled to try and reach out to anybody who was responsible for making the movie. And I knew Jody wouldn't take my phone call out of the blue, nor would probably anybody. And I think I was able to find a contact address or phone number for you. And I called somebody, or I sent a letter to somebody, again, pre-email and all that stuff. And I just said, I'm in love with your film. Um, Tell me everything, please, pretty please. I'll be your best friend. Be my friend.
Be my friend.
And not too long afterwards, you called me in my college room and spent almost a half an hour on the phone with me, telling me so many different things about the locations and the feelings behind the movie, where you and Will had the story evolve from. You told me about a couple of deleted scenes, which I think are really powerful. And then I
Yeah.
asked you what I'll ask you again now for other people that would see this, but you told me the story about your favorite shot in the film.
Well, it was an important shot in the film because Jodie Foster, we were new, and Jodie Foster was an up and coming. She just graduated from Yale, but she had been in Taxi Driver, and already everyone knew she was going to be successful. So when we got her, we knew that basically our jobs depended on not looking like clowns, not being prepared. We actually studied with a guy named what's his first name? I think Josh Sherman, and he as a director's coach. And very early in, probably 6 months before we began, I began to have an idea of a shot I wanted to make, which would be basically two scenes in one shot, and where Jodie is in both locations during the shot. So she starts out on the porch where the family is gathered after the memorial service, and the camera, Blair Brown, comes up to the pillar, and the camera had moved in slowly, and then it moved into her face, and she gave a monologue, and then the camera goes up, which I always loved, to where Billy was sitting in his favorite perch on the roof. And then Jodie, while all that was happening, ran up, left the porch scene and ran up the stairs and got to the window. And just as we got to Billy Wyatt, she came to the window and then sat down next to him in a two shot, and then the scene was over. So that scene came early in the movie, and that scene, by putting her in two locations, and she could see that we're knowing what we were doing. She never questioned it, and that was a big difference of getting support from the studio.
Was it a shot that you were able to get in one? That's
Yeah.
not my dog, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's we probably did it two times. Blair Brown, as an actress, is phenomenal because she can cry at will. She can do anything.
She's really good.
We probably did it a couple times. You're, especially when you're new directing, you're more conservative, so you want to say, even if the shot is good, you want to go, let's shoot it again in case something happens, so it's a safety shot. So I would say no more than three shots of that, and we were done, and she was happy.
And and that's your favorite shot of the
That's
film.
my favorite shot as a director. I did a shot. There's another, not, I did a beach scene that I liked that we didn't cut in. We just did it. And there was a lot of pressure on me to go into close-ups and over their shoulder. And I just kept it as one long shot, which covered 4 pages of dialogue, which when you're spending about $100,000 a day. So when you can save on something like that, that's a good feeling. And I liked the feeling. It was it was like Woody Allen-ish in the sense that it was one camera shot. And Woody Allen would do that all the time. He could just have the camera in a hallway. Characters would go in and out of rooms, but he wouldn't move it, and he wouldn't go into close-ups. So I think I was influenced by that. Later, I probably thought maybe I should have gone in, but those are the moments you have. The only moment I really regret was, I told you this, John, that was when I had a scene with Mark Harmon after he gets the news about Jody and he's getting ready to come home. He's at a bus station, and um, and he destroys the bathroom.
So I was telling Jerry a little bit about that, but
Yeah.
I couldn't remember some of those details. But
Yeah, well, he was pulling on, I think he was pulling on some towels to get them out to wash his hand, and it wouldn't come out, and he started doing this, and then when he got the whole machine off, he grabbed it. And what was funny about that for me was that the producer of the movie, before we got the producer that made the film, gave us a very difficult time and dropped the movie 6 weeks before we were to shoot it. So we weren't a big fan of his. And so we put his name up with "fuck you" all over the wall for like
I love it.
graffiti with his, but
Yeah,
his name.
yeah.
And so I particularly regretted not having the shot in because of that, even more than whatever Mark Harmon was doing. Because he calls, he did it on purpose to try to cut the movie from Columbia so that we couldn't get it made. But Warner Brothers came to the rescue.
Stephen, it's your birthday. If you want to say the guy's name, you can say anything you like.
David Picker.
David Picker.
Will and I were arrogant. We were young and we were arrogant. We'd been on stage together for probably 1,000 shows. We were partners. We wrote really well together. And so we were very kind of confident. We had lunch with him, and I think we turned him off by our cockiness because he probably wanted us to be all humble, and we weren't. And so he looked for an opportunity to drop us, and he did. Actually out at Robert's at Sundance with what's his name, Robert Redford.
Robert Redford.
Yeah, and so there we were, and now we didn't have a film, and I had already picked out locations to shoot. So he was just a dirty, he was acting. He got us back, but we got him
Well,
back. We made the movie.
you made the
Yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
and it created a whole lot of I think very special relationships. And as you've said to me a few times, that you've maintained a nice relationship with Mark Harmon,
Mhm.
and that he became a very loyal friend, which
Yeah.
I think is one of the greatest things that you could ever ask for as a filmmaker. That the people that you work with really have an ongoing respect and
Yeah.
admiration for each other.
He got mad at me because I told him we had dinner together, and I said, "Mark, you don't have to do anything in this movie. You just have to look like yourself. You don't have to, no overacting." He never forgave me for that. He would say, after a shot, he would go, "Is that small enough for you? Is that?" Am I acting too much? So we had good laughs about it, but he's been a great fan of the movie, supporter of the movie. You know, the bat that I gave you, John, he had 12 of those made and with their name on it. You know, he's a very generous man. Um,
Here you
there's
go.
that one. Yeah, that's all Harmon. But you
Yeah,
know,
this is I took this out of the case because Jerry said if you don't bring the bat, I'm going to find something else and hit you on the head with it. So
yeah,
I mean, and knowing that we were going to be talking with you, I just had to bring it out. And
yeah,
again, this is you know, when Indiana Jones first looked at the Ark of the Covenant sitting in that little pit, you could see it on his face that he found the literally perhaps the Holy Grail. But this was something that I can't, like I've said to you before, Stephen. There's something about the movie that affects me emotionally inside every time I see it, every time I hear the music. I know Jerry probably feels the same way, and
I have
this kind
real,
of thing.
yeah, I've got
Say,
real views on that because I think the movie, unlike let's say something like a real, you know, a baseball movie, uh, you know, like the one Costner was in. Um, that kind of movie is kind of a guy's movie, baseball movie, and this movie has that, but it has an emotional strain underpinnings in it. It's got feminine aspects to it. If you look at Jodie, Jodie did the movie because it's the first time she'd ever seen a female cast as the best friend, which she was best friends with Billy. And she plays, if you look at her role, she's tough. She's the guy, but she's a
she's
woman.
yeah, she's very tomboyish in the film, which
Yeah,
I found it to be so perfectly complementary to um, Billy McNamara as this sort of naive,
yeah. And
you
dangerous.
know,
She's
young
dangerous.
teenager
She's,
guy.
gets in the car and drives the car,
Yeah,
uh, and Jody loved all that, and we liked it. I think writing females as a male that aren't that kind of a female just doesn't interest me. I'm not I mean, not it doesn't make the character interesting unless they have some bite to them. So they've got some oomph to them, and she had uh, plenty of that, and it was based on a real person who had that kind of energy, but she grew up at a time where that kind of energy in a woman was not liked by the male or the culture. It wasn't appreciated. She was beautiful, but she had this other side of herself, and it as a writer, it's the only kind of female that I think is worthy of writing. But as a person, she had a hard time in relationships and stuff because she wasn't playing by the rules.
and Katie's character, if I remember correctly, you had said was based on someone that was important in your life.
Yeah, no, I mean that's my point. Katie's not just out of the blue. She's based on someone who a year and a half after my father passed away on the bridge in Philadelphia, Walt Whitman Bridge, and now a year and a half later, it's quite a story. She took her life. And I ran into her about really strange. I ran into her about a week before in Miami, and I was going with a group of friends over to somewhere. And she said, "Why don't you come with me?" And I said, "I can't, my friends." And on the way back to Philadelphia, I stopped at her parents' house for the night. And that's when they got the call that she had shot herself.
Wow.
So it was like this synchronicity about her life. And when I got back to Philadelphia, she was buried already 100 yards by chance in the same cemetery that my father is buried in.
Wow.
Wow.
So the
Well,
story of her, that's what really made me want to write the movie. It wasn't just because of my father. It was the influence of Katie, my relationship with her that summer, which was kind of overwhelming because she was 4 years older than I was. And and her play and what important part she played in our family's drama, and then her own drama on top of which those synchronicity of running into her, then being at her parents' place, that really became the kind of core of the film for me. That double relationship, father and this young beautiful girl.
That's I don't know that you had gone into that detail
I
previously
never
with me.
talked about that.
Yeah,
But
it's
her
what a
family,
story that
members
is.
of her family were not happy with the fact that they knew that I was doing that. But yeah, you know, you know,
Mhm.
none of you took care of her when she needed help. So, you know, she fits into a fabric of not only her family life, but ours. And that's what I think gives some of the strength to the movie, is because of her female balance in the movie. So my point is that the reason if you have an emotional quality, what Carl Jung, the psychologist, said, the anima, which is the female part of yourself, and you create a character that that taps that part of your own self, that part of yourself is emotional. You're giving in to having a moment. We very much wanted to have a movie that was funny but emotional.
And and I think you succeeded on all of those levels.
Now, but you see, it takes guys like you to receive it, because guys like you will get the emotional part, aren't scared to talk about it, how it affects you. So most of the people that reacted to the movie were females who, felt good, and the males that liked it are people that aren't scared of emotion. Yeah, I'm a man,
And
I'm a guy, but I'm also this. Why? I don't have to be just you know, one way, only one being. And so that
and
fact that you guys connect to that and have people know, that means in some way more to me than anything, because I think when you can reach men in a movie like that and can get them not to shy off it, it's a good thing.
yeah, and it's hard for me to think of movies that uh, affect me on those levels, like Stealing Home. If there are others, I can't easily recall them. Jerry, I don't know about you with I mean, we watch so many movies. It's
Summer of 42 had that.
yes, that's. But you know what though? There was something, and I've seen that movie. It's been a long time, but I don't recall feeling an immediate sense of
Uh-huh.
emotional connectivity to the film. Jerry and I were talking about what our favorite scenes in the film were. Jerry, what was yours?
Well, it's the part, I always just really kind of think it's comes the perfect time and just helps bring my spirit up a bit, is when he runs into Robin's house to get the necklace back, and you
Yeah,
hear his baseball cleats just ruining that wooden floor, and
and
he's
it
slipping and
did.
sliding.
Oh boy. Yeah, that cost us some money. That actually
Oh,
was the house where the boy that played it is named Thatcher Goodwin. And I saw a picture, and we were using his parents' house to be uh, Katie's girlfriend, Mark's girlfriend's house. And when I was in looking at the house and, scouting it, I saw the pictures of her two sons. And I went, one of these is gonna gotta be Billy Wyatt, because all the kids that were seeing were, showbiz kind of, have been acting since they were 5, and they had no natural quality. Whereas Thatcher had never acted, and he was the kind of kid that would be he would take baseball bats and pile them on top of one another. He was just such a natural kid. In fact, I picked him up at a camp that my two sons now still at their life work at to this day, called Tecumseh. He's wearing in the early bit a Tecumseh t-shirt, and
Ah,
that's a camp in New Hampshire. And so that camp came back into our lives, and my son Billy got a job there, and it's the connecting stuff was amazing. But he was so natural a kid, and Jody, who had been a childhood actress,
Sure.
knew how to handle him perfect. He never missed a line. The boy never missed a line. But back to the point, we had to pay thousands of dollars to have those floors fixed, which is
I guess my next question is irrelevant. That was not intended.
oh yeah, sure. I mean Harmon, that's Harmon. I forget. He was coming. Well, he had been with at the vet with Harold Ramis, and then they went to the house for the swimming pool scene, and then they gave up. So he was in uniform and then he went to Katie's house to drop off the ashes because he didn't know what to do with her. And until, of
Until
course,
he saw the picture.
saw the picture poster, and by that time that was nice because the parents now were accepted that he was going to give them back to them,
Right.
and then he goes, he takes them back from them.
Well, and you could see that on their faces. Although Richard Jenkins' face, I felt he was always more kind of understanding of Billy's
Yeah, well, he plays
uncertainty.
that. Yeah, the mother was
But
colder.
yeah,
Was
much.
colder.
But so Mark sliding on the floor was
So,
was
so Mark,
he
the point is that from a point of view, he's been at the vet. He was playing baseball at night with Appleby. So all that's one sequence. So the time he gets to her house, he's still in his cleats. So I can't have
right,
him taking off the shoes and kind of tiptoeing. He had to be like, but it cost a lot of money. But
right,
I rationalize that because I used that house for three or four scenes. So it costs you money when you move locations. So when you can take a location and get another scene out of it, you're saving money. So that was the trade-off, but it did cost. It did cost. We used my mom's house too, and she got a free driveway. So there, Hank Moongene was the producer, and he had done a lot of the Burt Reynolds movies, and he was so knowledgeable of how to save money and how to work people, and he was brilliant. You know, kind of if you didn't have him, we couldn't have made the movie the way we did. So.
and you were I guess lucky as well to get the governor's summer mansion down
Yeah,
in
very
Island
lucky.
Beach.
And that's part of
Um,
his skill. Well, because we were capturing a time where the shore was empty. It wasn't, my uncle had a house down, it was on an acre of land. During the shoot, I went back to see where the house was. I couldn't find it at first because now on that acre of land were 9 to 10 houses.
right.
Wow.
That's
We shot the movie, it's in the 60s. Low
yeah.
60s. And so Governor's Manse had it. And also it was September, so there were no summer folk there. But that's why we took it. It was actually a bad house to shoot in. That's why we built the gazebo to have more
And
scenes outside.
and
The
I
house was
remember
too
you
angular.
yeah, it was, as I've said to you previously, that I think the shots outside at the gazebo and that little area outside were
Yeah.
so important to the film. And unfortunately, as you've said, the production took that right down as soon as shooting was done.
Hey, I went out to see
Um,
it, gone. I mean,
yeah,
that's one
right,
of when a movie is over, when you're making a movie, it's like your family. It's like really tight. And it's exciting because you don't know, it's challenging and it's all that. And then when it's over, it is over. There's no gradual way out. It reminds you, no, this was just a movie. All that set is being moved to somewhere else for something else.
right.
So that was kind of a shock, but I think what it caught, which I loved, it caught summer. It caught summer when you're young and you don't have too many worries, and Appleby and the lady next door and all that kind of stuff was,
It was
innocence.
so good.
You know,
And
innocence. Oh yeah.
Yeah, very innocent. And Jonathan Silverman was great
Very good.
with his scenes with that woman. It was the perfect um, uh, display of that teenage. Oh my God, this is going to make your whole year.
This is going to make
Um,
your whole year. Yeah.
and
Oh,
so, and I'm gonna just pop in with what my favorite scene was, and I had been giving this a lot of thought because my favorite scene is everything that happens between the opening and closing credits. But if I had to narrow it down, I was saying to Gerry, I think from the moment Mark sees the poster on the wall at
mhm,
Katie's parents' house,
mhm.
um, and he goes to Robin Park's house, and he has that sliding moment on the floor.
Yeah,
He gets back the pendant,
right.
uh, and he runs out, and you hear him leave, clamoring steps, and maybe a door slams. And as the door slams, we bring this big guy back, and
Right.
the saxophone and sort
Yep.
of a crescendo of the
Yep.
theme song, and all of a
Energy.
sudden you have that montage of the aerial shots, which were beautiful,
Yep.
of him driving
A
to the pier,
Volkswagen. Yeah, her
and
car.
and then he kind of screeches to a halt at the bottom of that gangway to get onto the pier, which I told you recently is Margate City's fishing pier. Um, but
Wow.
that whole scene, and when he runs up and
Yep.
through um, the
Yep.
ramp, I guess, and he runs past the now faded sign, and he
Yeah.
holds the urn up, and that theme is going
Yeah.
full
That's,
tilt boogie. I'm getting goosebumps right now.
yeah, no,
Um,
I feel the same. When I first saw it, I went, I really like this. And I liked all of it, taking the pendant back, which is, really saying I'm not lost anymore. I'm getting, I
he found
screwed up.
himself,
She said, never give this away.
right?
Katie said, never give this away. In fact, if you give me 1 minute, I might be able to find the pendant. Give me a minute.
Yes, sir. It's, ah,
Hmm.
this is a first, folks. This is going to be the
Yeah.
first time, if you could find it, this is going to be the first time probably this pendant's been seen anywhere in over 35 years. Let me just tell you that. And I apologize for all the stupid sounds that my phone is making over there. There's dings and dongs, but somebody forgot to silence his phone. So
All right.
I'll hit myself with this bat later.
Here we
Find
go.
something different, John. Volleyball.
Oh my God. Wait, let me do it. Let me do it Appleby way. Oh my God. You really got it. Can you kind of hold it closer to the
Yeah.
camera, Stephen? Look
Spaceball.
at that. Just
Oh,
if you
wow.
could raise it just a little bit, Stephen, we can't see it on the camera. There it is. Wow. That's fantastic.
Wow.
I mean, as you stepped away, I said, that's probably the first time anybody has seen that in over 35 years.
Yeah. It's been, I mean, I have some wonderful pictures like on my wall. I have a lot of mementos, but like I think I'm gonna make you, I think I'm gonna make you the custodian of the movie. Yeah. All right. Oh, I can't get it. Let me get it right ready. I'm gonna make you, that's what I'm gonna do, John. I'll make you the custodian of everything. Because I have,
Wow.
that just sits inside my drawer.
So
But
so that was
this is the
just
real
sitting in
one.
your drawer.
This is the real one.
And it was just sitting in your drawer like
Yeah,
Robin had it in
it's
her
like,
jewelry
yeah,
box.
I did, yeah, it was like nothing.
No, that's not nothing.
I know.
That's that right there, Stephen, that there
Yeah.
is Billy Wyatt.
It's Billy, it's Billy White. It's really
It's who
this,
he is.
and Will and I talked about. I mean, if you look back, she gives him this very early in the movie.
Yeah.
This becomes a symbol. Remember what she said? I mean, because these are the kind of beliefs I actually have. She said, "This is who you are." You know, she's saying you're a baseball player, and never give this away. And what she gives away as soon as he can get the sex. Here's a picture I have of Billy Wyatt and John Shea.
Could you raise it just a little higher? Oh yeah. Oh, that's what a great shot.
Yeah,
Wow. Like I got to tell you right now, Stephen, I have tears in my eyes because to see you have that pendant and to see these pictures that are uh, still there with you as important. I was not expecting this. I'm sorry. Um, that just it fills my heart.
it's
I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it.
well. I mean, it's just I know how things. Uh, it reminds you of things, but it's. Um, I know I wanted to have this because this is really the theme of the movie, which is really that if you can figure out who you are, like she said, you're a baseball player, and the minute you stop trying to be that, you're going to get lost. And it took
And
him to give it away and then go back and get it from her in that scene, put it on, and then do the ashes that makes it believable that he could return to the man who at 35 steals home at the end of the game. Because stealing
and
home is just a metaphor for confidence.
yeah, and when there's that we'll say it's a flashback, but then you hear Wyatt,
Yeah.
and and Mark is standing there, and comes out of his
Yeah.
daze, and now he's there in San Bernardino, uh, we'll say whole again, found himself.
Yeah. He's
He's
back.
the baseball player.
You don't have to be in the majors. I mean, my son has been wanted to be in basketball since he saw a movie called Hoop Dreams. And
Oh, sure.
in the inner city, he played, ended up playing in high school, played in college, and now he coaches for the last, he coached at Cornell and a few other schools. But I said to him when he's now at a high school in New Hampshire, and he's still doing basketball. And I go, that's the point. The point is that's who you are. It
Right.
doesn't matter what level you're at. It means that you're in the game. So that Mark at the end, Billy Wyatt at the end is, yeah, whole. He can be in a relationship with a real person. He can be start a family. He can do whatever because he's back to who he was. So the idea was, I used to say, when Billy figures out what to do with her ashes, he'll figure out who he is.
And I think it all came into one crystal clear picture in almost that if it wasn't for that going back to Katie's parents, if he hadn't stopped back there,
Right. He
knows
was
who knows what may or may not have happened. But seeing that picture,
right.
which also then for me personally, I told you about that the giant production art that Will so kindly sent me.
Yeah,
The thing, it's 5 feet tall,
that's huge.
um, of this poster, and that's the catalyst I think for Billy realizing what he had to do not only for Katie, but in order to find himself was to go back there.
And to go further, Jody came to me very early, like first day of shooting, and she was doing ballet motions and stuff on just playing. And have you actually seen the scene where the parents leave in the car? She's
Right.
at the fence doing ballet, and all that's her figuring out to put that in the beginning of the movie so that when she makes the ballet movies out on the on the dock,
Right.
it will have come from what we knew who she is. I had no idea what she never didn't say to me, I want to learn to do ballet. So at that last scene, she saved that. She never talked about it. But when we got to last scene, that's my favorite, one of my favorite moments is when she comes and takes a swoop like that, and then the camera comes around on her and she goes, yeah, Billy, that's what I want. You know,
And
that
you
this is
see
what
it
I really want.
all in her face.
Yeah, it's all in her face because she's got she's such an actress. She can, but the ballet was how she got into that place. So she needed to put it in that first scene to know that's what she was studying. See,
So good. Perfectly done.
that's when you have someone really trying to connect with the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen, we've been with you for about an hour almost,
I
and
think I have to, we're gonna go and get some dinner, but
yeah, I wanted
back
to
a
just
lot
see
of good,
if
what?
Gerry had any last
Yeah.
thoughts or questions or anything that he wanted to ask.
Nothing to ask, just thank you. Really, it comes down to that. It's something John and I have connected as friends, part of our friendship for all these years. It's something we always come back to.
I really appreciate that. On my birthday, it can't be, I went too long because, the movie still resonate, not the movie, but the principles of the movie of getting lost and getting found in your life and all the things still resonate with me. And for me to have the two of you talking about it and caring about it, trust me, is a great birthday gift, and I appreciate it very much.
I want to thank you again for taking time on your birthday to sit with us. And now I have to ask you, are you going to keep that pendant on for the rest of the night?
Yeah.
Good for you. Good. Um, I I can't tell you what it means to be able to say that you're my friend. And it's been a wonderful 35 plus year journey of enjoying the movie however many times I've seen it before I even had a chance to talk to you personally, and then to see you a couple of times in New Jersey. I'm beyond grateful for the work that you have done with your career and with Will. Um, it is truly something special to be on this little silly thing that Gerry and I do. Yeah, we were saying you're the first guest that we've ever really had, that
Good.
we can edit into an episode and say we really spoke to a guest, and it wasn't just a silly kind of thing. This means something to me that, like the movie, is hard to put into words, and I'm very honored to be your friend.
Well, remember, it's also business. If you pass this on to anybody and they see the movie, I'm making money.
Well, that's also true, and we could talk
I'm
about
joking
Thanksgiving
because
maybe
the
another time.
money I'm making will probably be something like 39 cents. So it's not, but
Well, I mean,
anything to keep the movie alive, I think is important.
and that's why there people like me are going to look around on eBay for things like this, and uh, to be able to say that
Oh,
slowly but surely, I'll have one of everything that has the name Stealing Home on it.
yeah, and I may make you the custodians at some point because I don't know if my kids will be interested. We'll see. But I don't, last thing I want to say is that it also reminded me today how I miss my partner, Will Aldis, because I just loved writing with him and we really connected. And when I see the movie and remember what a big part he plays in that and all of that, it saddens me that he's not around for this kind of moment because he would have loved this.
And
So,
I'm glad that he and I were able to connect even
yeah,
briefly,
yeah, great he
before.
did that.
That was what a gesture of kindness that was. But again, on behalf of Gerry and myself, and I have a nice hardcore group of friends that
Yeah.
continue to love Stealing Home. I just want to say thanks again, Stephen, for spending a little time on your birthday, and I hope you
Thank
guys
you,
have a
John. Thank you.
fantastic dinner.
Pleasure to meet you, Gerry. Have a good day,
Thank you.
men.
Thank you. You
Thanks so
too.
much, Stephen, and we'll talk again soon.
Talk soon. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Hey, wow. Drink this in for a minute. Foster and old David Foster. Ready to come back to it? All right, wow. So we are back sort of live and in color and in your face. So we just finished up chatting with writer-director STEVEN Kampmmann, whose birthday it is today. And he took about an hour of time to chat with us knuckleheads wearing our Carlton Academy jerseys. Boy, we really are fans, aren't we? We're like,
nerd fans.
we're nerds, right? I mean,
Big-time
but
fans, though.
and he got me emotional thinking about things. And this movie, it's just I don't know what it is. I could sit here and talk about this movie and I could cry if I wanted to. Like Blair Brown, he said that she could cry on command. Well, I could probably, but I'm not gonna because I'd like you to keep watching. So this was well, you saw on the Zoom. This is the vinyl LP that I just got on eBay, and I'm just looking at the back of this thing, and we'll put this here for a second. That shows you just a couple of pictures and some of the other songs and everything. You can't really see it, but the album is filled with like 50s hits. The Everly Brothers, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Jerry Lewis, the Shirelles, the Nylons, Poison Ivy, anybody? Bo Diddley, and then of course David Foster. And I think that one of the things that you were saying is how the soundtrack tends or has a tendency to overpower a film, or a film has a tendency to overpower the soundtrack. But in the case of Stealing Home, none of that happened. Because the blending between the music and the acting was just so complementary, I think.
Definitely that, and he talked about how they worked with David Foster closely to make sure everything.
I didn't know
they
that.
connected. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how early on that David Foster had gotten on board, that he expressed his that he liked it as much as he did. And boy, I hope that he'll sign this. I'm orchestrating the whole thing even now. It's only June, and some of the stories that Steven was sharing with us were stories that I was sort of aware of, but the story about the girl that kind of Katie was in Steven's life. He had touched on that in some conversation with me previously, but not to the extent that he did today. And maybe that was because we were here together talking about it. And it was just one of those things where it adds depth and emotion to the overall story of the film. And there's no bullshitting. You can love a movie. I love Die Hard. I love Jaws or Superman, and you love Blue Velvet or Zombie or whatever. There's something, and Steven really hit it, I think, because for a guy to have such an emotional connection to a movie like this, where there's baseball, but the rest of the story is really not. Baseball is the underlying current, I think, and that pendant symbolizes Billy Wyatt's character. But it's not a baseball movie, like you said, like Bull Durham. It's an emotional film that you have the male and female counterparts. And Jodie was, I'm going to use a word from another character in another TV show, but Jodie's a toughie in this. And she's perfect at it. She's perfect. And she filmed Stealing Home right before she started filming The Accused. And guess what happened? I believe it was an Academy Award.
Yes, it was.
Oh, and then after The Accused, Silence of the Lambs. Guess what happened? a second Academy Award. So, and there's never anything that I've ever seen Mark Harmon in since Stealing Home that I do not equate him with Stealing Home. Does that make sense? Every time I see Mark Harmon, I think Stealing Home.
Yeah,
I don't.
First thought
is Stealing Home. And I knew of him before Stealing Home, certainly after NCIS and The Presidio, a movie he did with Sean Connery that same year. I think maybe he started filming it either right before Stealing Home or right after. I can't remember if The Presidio came out right before or right after. Great movie, fun, good thriller, and Sean Connery, whatever. And the same here with Billy McNamara, who's here and who I'm happy to say I have a little connection with on social media. He's been in a bunch of movies, and he's an activist and a real friend of doggies. But every time I see him, I think Stealing Home. He was in a great thriller with Sigourney Weaver called Copycat.
Yep.
And boy, was he a bad guy. But I saw Billy Wyatt.
Yeah, Dario Argento's opera. He's
Right, with the things.
Yeah, he's one of the first murder victims. It's really cool, but what do I think of when I see he shows up the first time?
It's really hard. I'm going to try not to have this pick up on the... Sorry. I think that just kind of shows the indelibility, if that's a real word, of not just the movie, but the people who made it. Mm-hmm. I have just so much feeling about everything in this movie. And one of the coolest things that I was able to share with Steven the first time we met in New Jersey at a diner was I showed him some pictures of just scenes from the film, including scenes when he's setting up the diamond at the beginning of the film. And there are billboards along the perimeter of the baseball diamond. One of them says Wyatt something, cleaners or contractors, construction.
Like that,
yeah. And I showed Steven the picture and I said, "Did you do that?" And Steven said, "Oh my God, I didn't even notice that. I think it was there." And I was like, it was another one of these, like these fortuitous things. And what I wanted to say, but didn't get a real chance to when you're talking about that scene when he's setting up shop, so to speak, there's one moment where he's running. He's doing like sprints back and forth. And you can hear him, Mark Harmon, you can hear him, like obviously the breathing heavy, but almost like he's panting. And it just sounded so genuine for the character and for the actor and whatever. And I know that Mark Harmon was always an athletic guy, but he was a football player, I think. Anybody? Steven? Football, right? I believe. Because he had a big foot chase scene in The Presidio. And he ran like a football player. I don't know. What the hell am I talking about? I'm really just jazzed right now. But I don't want to take away from what just happened. Yeah. I'm so grateful and I'm so honored that we got to sit here finally and talk to this guy about his film. The conversations I've had with Steven since we became friends are so meaningful to me, but as you said, it's been part of our friendship for 35 something years since whenever
we first.
And I think that the longer we're friends, the longer this movie is part of our friendship and part of things that we share that we love, aside from the sillier movies and the horror movies and things like that. This is really something that stands apart. It's still one of these unexplainable things. It's still one of those things where when I hear on the soundtrack, there's Katie's theme that David Foster is the last track on the album. but I can see the scenes from the film as it's playing. And there's this one moment where the saxophone comes up. It was like halfway through the piece or 3/4 through. And it's that scene where they're out at the gazebo and she comes out after they have their night together. And she kind of puts her duffel bag down and I got to go and all that stuff and get that pendant back. And that's who you're a ball player. And she kind of, I love you, Billy boy. And they freeze it. That fucks me up every time. I'm not going to let it right now. And then you hear Mark Harmon's voiceover saying, and that's the last time I ever saw her. And it just, I don't know why it hits me, but because you know the depth of their love for each other, and this connection then, and then, you know, so much of the movie is a flashback, and then it's back to Billy present time, and he's out at the gazebo, weather beaten, the stubble and the wind's blowing in his hair, and he's staring out at the ocean, trying to figure out how the hell am I going to take care of what Katie needs me to do. I don't know what to do because I'm lost because I gave that goddamn pendant to Robin Parks. But he gets it back, spoiler alert, and he finds himself. So, I don't know, you got anything, you want to say anything else?
You know, talking with Steven today, I had all these thoughts in my head and all of the themes and universal themes and how they can come down. And it didn't have to be baseball. It could have been anything. And I stopped myself because it's, I'm going to get teary-eyed now, John. It's perfect the way it is. It just is. And I don't want to deconstruct it. I don't want to take it apart. I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah. When people talk about perfect movies, there's technically perfect, visually perfect, audio, all this. Directors do this. We did this back behind the dorm, and then we rolled around in poison ivy. I did it for Domino's. For me, this movie is perfect. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I would change. I'm sure Steven would feel differently. Perhaps there's something he would have rather tweaked here or there. I'm so glad that he told a couple of those stories on the Zoom, so it's here for people to see and hear and enjoy the things that didn't make it into the final cut. That bathroom scene with the paper towel thing, the fuck picker. It's just so good. The now batting for Costner. And please remember, Steven's in the film, as he said, that far shot when Mark is singing the national anthem, it's actually Steven in the long shot. And when Billy is stealing home again at the end, Steven is the third base coach. And that slow motion scene when Billy starts taking off towards the camera and you see Steven kind of running after him. I fucking love it. I'm sorry for cursing.
It's a picture he autographed.
That's right. And I chose that specifically because I wanted him to sign a picture that he was in with Mark for you. And it's just, this movie is perfect. I don't know what else to say. We should stop now. I hope somebody watches this. I have two friends that I know are huge Stealing Home fans, Kristen and Michaela. And I hope you guys watch this. And whenever I post it up, when it's all edited together, I'll tag you. But I would also like to say that I have a Billy Wyatt bat and you don't. And you don't. You can touch it. There it is. Touching greatness. And I guess we should say thanks to Mark Harmon for the bat.
Yeah, that's right.
It was your idea, Mark, to make these things. Boy, are you smart. So again, I guess thanks to Steven Kampmann for taking time on his birthday to talk with us and to make this episode probably the best. We've said we've had best episodes before, but we were also there was tequila involved in a lot of in all of them, and whereas that episode will come later, this was just perfect. I can't. I'm so. This is great. I love it.
Yeah. John and I never thought we could aspire to something like this.
No, when we were making movies and bullshit in college, and I'm literally hanging onto a moving car as someone else is driving it and Jerry's filming it, and we're just trying to have fun and trying to, as you say, aspire to have some semblance of relevance in life,
Yeah.
you know, while we're just trying to find our way. And then we would go back after we, we'd watch it and say, okay, look, we're idiots. And then we would go and watch something silly and say, all right, let the pros do it. I never thought in a million years that I would be able to, this journey with Stealing Home that started in 91, let's say, that all these years later, I can say that it's become such more than I ever thought it would be part of my life and part of the things that make me happy that involve this movie. Like I told Steven, when I saw this bat, it was akin to Indiana Jones seeing the Ark or the Grail or something. This is a Grail piece as far as movie history for me. It's got Billy Wyatt's name on it, and it's just so awesome. And that Steven had that baseball pendant, the very symbol, I think, of who Billy Wyatt is and was, that he was able to just go and 2 minutes later come back and have it and he put it on. I just love that it's still with him and it still resonates. I mean, if there's anything that symbolizes Billy, it's that pendant. If there's anything that symbolizes the movie, I think it's all of this. The way that we can carry on talking about it and never get tired of it. Always have the emotional reactions and responses to the dialogue, to the scenes, sliding on the wooden floors. I love that he had to pay for it afterwards. But all these things, I'm going to be 70 years old and still love this movie, providing I hit 70. I could go on, but I don't want to. I think we got it.
I think we got it.
This rocked out. I mean,
And I think,
well, wait, this was like the be my friend. This was, but you didn't have sex with my prom date, did you? Jerry did not.
I did not.
We didn't know each other at prom. He didn't have sex with my commencement date either, like Appleby and Wyatt. But trust me, Jerry. I don't trust you, Bill. Come on, you mother father. Sorry, folks. He's slow, but we love him.
No, I am emotionally drained.
Oh, well, we'll get back to that later.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks again to Steven Kampmann.
Yes.
You are the absolute top of the rock, man. And thank you for Stealing Home. Thank you, Will Aldis. Thank you. Bless you. Mark Harmon, Jodie Foster, Richard Jenkins, Blair Brown, Jonathan Silverman, William McNamara, David Foster. Who else? The woman in the other house. I can't remember her name.
The Dink.
The Dink, drinking frozen daiquiris on the veranda. Mrs. Dink.
She was nice though.
She was. Helen Hunt was in this
That's
movie.
Right. Helen Hunt was.
It was one of her first things. And whatever. God love you for this movie. Holy crap. Stealing Home, everybody. Johnny B, G.H. Touchette. We're going to be back later with something way different, but thanks for watching. This is a really, really special episode. If you haven't seen Stealing Home, I don't know why you've sat through this and still haven't seen the movie because you don't understand a thing. Please go see this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, it's on iTunes, and maybe you can get it somewhere else, but if you want to see this movie, I'll buy it for you. Hit me up. It's $10 on iTunes. It's my treat. Everybody should see this movie. Carlton Strong.
Carlton Strong.
Alan the Horse Appleby.
Oh,
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this one. I'm so stoked right now. JonnyLand Live POPcast, Stealing Home. Happy birthday, Steven Kampmann. Last word.
Happy birthday, Stephen.
Happy birthday. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out.